Hello, YouTube. Can I say anything? Well, do you ever find yourself wondering, what's this Camber Bar? What's this SSB? SSB, not SSB bar.
SSB.
Safety Squat Bar.
Safety Squat Bar bar.
No, Safety Squat Bar. SSB or Camber Bar. You ever been looking at those and wondered, man, I really want to use those, but I'm not really sure why. Well, we're going to teach you why. We're going to teach you how. So let's do it.
What, where, when, and why, and...
This ain't 4th grade, man.
Sorry.
All right, let's go.
Hi.
That's right. Just, that was like, what is this, your first day of school? Is this kindergarten picture?
My name's Amber, and I'm here to teach you how to use bars. Hi. So, we're going to actually talk about the Camber Bar first. I'm going to demonstrate how to use the Camber Bar. So, if you compete in powerlifting, you're going to be competing in that low bar position, and it gets pretty uncomfortable on the shoulders. This bar will help take a lot of stress off of that position. So not only does it take stress off of the shoulders, but it helps you reinforce creating a nice shelf in which the bar will sit on.
If you've never used this bar before, as soon as you unrack this thing, well, first of all, I would recommend using it out of the mono. If you have access, use it out of the mono. Things get really awkward in a rack. The bar, the way this swings down and hits the handles and everything, you have to push it forward to get out. If you have the access, use a monolith for this thing.
Yeah, it's just nice to have that extra space to set yourself up into.
Exactly.
While we're talking about setting the shoulders here, notice where Amber has her hands placed. She has it on the vertical portion of the uprights. I'm a big fan of having the hands down low, as this is going to make it a little bit harder for the person to create that shelf themselves. So what's great about low bar squatting is you have your hands up here, naturally just a really tight position. Makes it really easy to pull down on that bar and get a nice shelf in the upper back. So, if you've never used this bar before, I'd recommend starting with your hands on this portion of the uprights. It's still going to be a bit more challenging to get that upper back tightness and to pull your lats down. And then if you want to make things more difficult down the line, move your hands down here to create a little bit more space. Because sometimes with clients of mine, I have had some issues where a person might grip a little bit higher on this side and a little bit lower on this side, and it's going to cause some unnecessary bar tilt. But for the sake of making things easier and more productive in the beginning, we can grip up here, and then as you progress along in your training, you can move your hands down low to make it a little bit more harder on the upper back.
I'm going to piggyback off that real quick. This is a really narrow camber bar. Most of them are going to be a little wider. So if you have a narrow one like this and you can't get your hands in here,
Just feels more awkward.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like for us, for like Chris or I, we can't really use this particular bar and have our hands where Amber's are.
Yeah, I have my hands all the way out to the collar when I use this bar, but you know, somebody more Amber's size, it's got to be a little bit easier for her to get into this position.
Yes. The point is, don't jam yourself in there.
Okay. What do you got, Amber?
So I'm going to unrack here, and one of the biggest things this bar is going to do is it's going to swing on you. So that's going to put a lot of emphasis on hip stability and 360-degree bracing. So you really need to focus on stabilizing yourself at the hips and bracing hard with this bar, especially as you go to actually initiate the squat, because this bar, it's meant to swing on you.
Yep. A lot of emphasis on keeping that pressure over the middle of your foot.
Yeah.
If you're a really heel-heavy lifter, or if you get pitched forward easily, you're going to find out really quick on the way down, or as soon as you start to squat up out of the hole.
So as we go to squat, if the bar comes too forward, then the bar is now over my toes, and as I come out of the hole, my hips are going to shoot up. So we really want to put emphasis on pulling our butt to our heels, just like you would with the regular squat, and keeping this weight, the camber, over midfoot.
Very good.
And since there's no weight on it, you don't see it. This thing's gonna swing.
It's going to swing.
This will expose all of the points to where you're losing tightness throughout your squat, and you don't want to do that. So this is a good tool to not only teach you how to stay tight, but also you might not realize where you're falling apart.
Yeah.
And this will expose you immediately where you're falling apart and what you need, and will show you what you need to work on.
Absolutely.
It'll force you to also maintain an upright torso. If you collapse anyway, then the bar is going to push you forward. Again, your hips are going to come up, and you're either going to fail the squat or you're going to muscle up that squat and do a really nasty good morning.
Yeah, which is not what we want here.
But where we do a little rounding is with the SSB.
Absolutely, which we are going to cover here in a second. There you have it, Camber Bar squat. All right, guys, we're going to talk about the SSB now.
Do you have a weak ass up the back?
Probably.
Probably.
I do.
Probably need this, just like that man.
All right, so we're gonna, biggest thing here with this bar, Amber, go ahead and get on under there. Biggest thing here you can see, just like with the Camber Bar, there is no demand on her shoulders here, right? So this is gonna be really good for a lot of people that struggle with low bar squatting, year round, shit like that. So no demand on the shoulders, great bar, all right? We can be really productive with this bar in a lot of ways. We're gonna show you how. So, biggest issue we see with the SSB is when people go to squat down, they pull down on the handles and they allow their upper back to round. Amber's not going to really be able to hit depth here. She's going to be a little bit high and her elbows are going to hit her hands. But if you look at the way she's positioned in the hole, right, she's a little bit rounded over. She's not at depth, but what does that look like? If you come back over here, looks like the start position for a conventional deadlift. So I don't necessarily agree with using the SSB this way, but this can be a good secondary movement and a variation, so to speak, for somebody that wants to get some carryover for their deadlifts, right? Because we always talk, like, if you want to deadlift more, you should squat more, right? That's a really underrated way to increase your deadlift. So pull down on the handles if you want it to be more beneficial to your deadlift, right?
Now remember, real quick, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
When you're pulling down on the handles, you need to focus on keeping that back tight still.
Yes, you might be rounded over, but your upper back is still gonna be tight, right? Another common thing we see here, people pushing up on the handles when they squat down. So now Amber, by doing this, so like we talked about earlier, biggest thing with the SSB is it's gonna cause you to want to round over. So if Amber is pushing up on the handles, it's going to take that away and it's going to allow her to stay a lot more upright. But if you watch her squat down here, right, she's able to hit really good depth. She's able to stay upright in the hole the entire time. Very, very similar to a high bar squat or even a low bar squat if you're somebody that can stay pretty upright in a low bar squat. So this could be a good tool for her to mimic a high bar squat or a low bar squat without having to put strain on her shoulders. Again, I don't necessarily agree with using the bar this way. I think you're much better off using the Camber Bar for this. If you're trying to closely resemble a low bar or high bar squat, use the Camber Bar because you can put yourself into an actual high bar and low bar position that way, or use a Duff low bar, right? Another useful tool for taking strain off the shoulders. So pushing up on the handles, it's gonna allow her to stay more upright, she's gonna get more range of motion, and she's not gonna cut any depth. Now, the right way, or the most common way, and most well-coached way to use the SSB is to have it just sitting naturally on your shoulders as is if you were to get under the bar. And what we're gonna do here is Amber is gonna focus on spreading the handles out. And now something I like to cue people, because if she just pulls out here and she lets her elbows flare out, I'm not really a fan of that. So what I like to tell my lifters when we're pulling out on the handles is to bring your wrist with your elbow, right? Because that's gonna cause us to kind of open up our chest a little bit, and it's going to lock our lats down very, very similar to a low bar squat, right? So if we're doing things similar to how we do when we're doing how we do the competition movement, we're going to have better carryover. So we're going to spread out on the handles. She's going to bring her wrists with the elbows here, and she's going to squat down, and she's going to fight that rounding in her upper back as best as possible. Now, chances are here, if you're using this bar, you're using it because you struggle with the upper back, so she's probably going to round a little bit, which is okay. That means that she should be using the bar, right? If it's challenging her to maintain that position. Point is, though, she's able to reach full depth. Her elbows aren't bouncing off her wrists, and it's a good movement for her to do. So go ahead and come back up.
So you want to think about when you're coming out of the hole, particularly with this one, push up on the pad with your back.
Yes.
Not your hands.
No, you don't want to push up on the handle. I'm focusing on pushing up on the pad with my back. So I think a really good cue that actually Chris gave to me was thinking about having a string attached to my head.
Yep.
So I'm going to push up as if somebody's trying to pull my head up with the string.
Kind of a piggyback off of that, go ahead and get back down in the hole, is along with that, like the string pulling on the top of the head, I've cued lifters before to imagine that there's somebody behind you pushing you forward. So drive your shoulders back and up into the bar as if somebody was trying to push you forward to make you fall over. So yes, drive yourself up and back. Got anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, so we've talked about this. We've talked about this in other videos and with other lifts, and it's going to be the same thing here. If something's breaking down in the bottom, check your foundation. Check where you're starting at the top. You need to be braced, again, 360-degree brace all the way around, including your upper back all the way through. So you don't want to get to the hole and then think, oh, I better have that tight back and be coming straight up. You need to start that process at the very top of the lift.
So I think it's safe to say that like your area of focus here, when, I mean, obviously you should be paying attention to bracing your core and your hips and everything, but you should be super, super mindful of having your upper back locked in.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep. That's what this whole bar is for, is getting that upper back built up and making sure you don't collapse into the squat.
Now, a couple other little tiny uses, secondary uses for the SSB that we don't talk about a lot that you might not even be aware of. There's a variation called the Hatfield squat, where we can have a lifter put their hands out on uprights right here, or if you have band pegs that people can hold on to. Yeah, get a little bit closer.
I'll throw them in here so we can show.
I like having people use band pegs for this. Now this is a really, really useful variation, right? So Amber is she's gonna take her hands off the SSB because it's able to stay on her upper back, right? And she's going to almost like use her hands, not for assistance, but more as like a guide. Now there's a lot of different things we can do here. I can have Amber focus on just simply pushing her knees forward on the way down. This is gonna be really good for loading her quads, right? Or I can have her like take a wider stance and really focus on setting back if we want to put more emphasis on the glutes and hamstrings. So depending on where you're at with your training, there's a lot of applications here. If you're somebody that's maybe had a recent injury, I know that when I tore my quad, this was the first squat variation I did along with box squats when I came back from surgery. It was a really, really easy way for me to gain confidence back and just not be too scared with a squat variation with a bar on my back, because I was really fucking scared to squat again. So yeah, like I said, different applications, context is everything, right? You want to load the quads more, narrow stance, let your knees come forward. If you're trying to load the glutes and hamstrings, then wider stance, sit back a lot more in the squat. But just another squat variation that you can utilize with this bar.
And just to finish, your hands should really just be resting.
Yeah.
You don't want to utilize the handles here to pull you up out of the hole.
Yes.
So when I go to squat in a Hatfield squat, I'm literally just using these as a guide, like Chris said. I'm not pulling myself out of the bottom with these handles.
Yeah, like we talked about earlier with when you see people push up on the handles, like it could be used as like an overload tool, right? Because if you squat with the SSB that way, you're likely going to be able to use as much weight with that variation as you would an actual low bar squat. And that's fine, it has its time and place. Like I said, I don't necessarily agree with it, and I'm not going to program it that way. It's the same way with a Hatfield squat. If you're helping yourself up out of the hole, you're going to be able to load up a lot of weight on this. I've seen people squat 1,000 pounds on the SSB this way, and I don't really think that's going to provide a lot of carryover to your competition list, and I think you're better off doing some other things. So I think that pretty much covers it.
All right, so a quick wrap up is Camber Bar and SSB bar. The big point here is to take.
You said it. You did it.
I broke my own rule. Okay. So, and action. So, wrap up here. We use the Camber Bar and the SSB, not SSB bar.
There we go.
The whole point to both of these, the main focus is that you're taking stress off your shoulders. And they each have their spots, as we went over, in your training. Guess what? You can use these for bench variations as well. My favorite use of the SSB is for JM press.
We should make a video about
And
that.
we're going to make a video about this stuff. So, you're going to have to do that for that. You know what? Quick shout out to Mr. Greeno.
Yeah.
You think these would fly? Just wait. It's only going to get more fly.
Oh yeah.
It almost, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't. It might be too much for the boys to handle.
We're gonna make people look bad.
Yeah, you know what? Be ready to have your feelings hurt. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry.
Welcome to Generation Strength. We're better than you, and we know it.
Oh, it's White Goodman coming in. Okay, anyways. Thank you for checking us out. We really appreciate you guys. We do this for you guys. Please like, subscribe, and on top of things, share. Get this out to your buddies. Not for us, for you guys. We want to improve everybody's lifting ability. That's why we're putting this all out there, and we hope you guys enjoy it. We hope you guys get a few laughs.
Let
and
us
a
know
lot
what
of
you want to see. Leave suggestions.
Yes.
We want to know what you guys want to see, so please do.
And for 5 cents a day, you can also help a Canadian in need. They're
You can just do this.
Yeah.
Okay. See you later.
Bye.